Welcome to Head to Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Markham. This bi-weekly podcast is created to be a safe space to admit what we truly believe in our hearts. And many of us, when we take the time to truly examine ourselves, will find some sort of shame, fear, or lies hiding in there. And it is never God's will for us to stay in bondage to those. It's His truth that sets us free from them. But there's a huge difference between having biblical knowledge floating around in our heads and actually believing that it's true. Until God's truth makes its way into our hearts, nothing changes. We'll be doing a mix of solo episodes and interviews with friends who have experienced the freedom that comes when head knowledge becomes heart knowledge. The truth will set you free so you can walk every day in the freedom God desires for you. It's time to let go of shame, fear, and lies. Those aren't yours to carry. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to Head to Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Markham. It's my absolute privilege to be able to give you a brand new guest who's one of my good friends. Her name is Audrey. Audrey, say hello.
Hello.
Just welcome to the show. And Audrey is going to share today something that's so precious to not only her life, but also to my life, because our stories are actually strangely similar in some ways. And so we were starting to talk about this podcast episode, and I just can't wait to hear you articulate it, because this is, even recording this is kind of a full circle moment for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. Why don't you introduce who you are, what you do, a fun fact, whatever else you want to share.
Yes. Okay, so my name's Audrey Celine. I am a student at Bethany Global University, and my fun fact is that my favorite road trip food is muffins, of all things.
Your road trip food?
Yeah,
So
road trip snack.
Okay, so you have to bake them before the road trip?
No, I usually get them at gas stations.
Oh,
but
yeah.
one of the messiest things you can take in a car.
That's
but
true. Huh. Good fun fact.
I just have a thing
I would
for
have never
muffins.
guessed that about anyone, ever. Okay, wonderful. And Audrey, tell us about your last name. I just want you to say something like, what people mistake it for, or just where it's from. Just tell us about Celine.
Yeah.
Because it's not Celine Dion.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of people say it Selin. They either misspell or mispronounce it, and it's kind of annoying sometimes. But, and I've heard of other people associating it with like Vaseline or gasoline, like just like adding those things to it.
Funny.
Anyway, that's a weird fact, but it's Swedish and it means friend of the king. It's a military title. Yeah.
I didn't know that before I asked you that. That's just so cool. And Audrey, what have you been set free from?
So I've been set free from a lot of things in my life, but recently, in this past year, there's been one thing in particular, the lie that God doesn't care about me, especially revolving around grief and loss in my life. I've been set free from that lie and learned that God really truly does care about my heart and about what happens to me. So I grew up as a missionary kid. My parents were missionaries in Mongolia, and we moved a lot before we went there.
Moved around a lot in the States?
Within the States,
Okay.
yeah. Well, within Minnesota.
Okay, within Minnesota.
Like 3 different places in Minnesota before
Wow.
that. So I went to Mongolia when I was 14 and had moved, I don't remember how many times, but quite a few. And then we settled into Mongolia, got established in ministry there and in the church there. And it was the first place I could call home, like permanent home, in a very long time. And then after 3.5 years, certain circumstances came about, and we had to leave Mongolia within a month of our deciding. And that was really hard for me because I was 17 at the time and was becoming established in the community, in the culture there, established as an adult. I felt like a normal 17-year-old, I guess.
Those were all your high school years.
Yeah, it was. So coming to the States felt like a reversal in some ways. felt like I was a 17-year-old in a 14-year-old body. I didn't know what to do with myself. And anyway, long story short, just experienced a lot of loss, and that transition in particular brought a lot of grief and, looking back, at depression too. A lot of doubts about whether or not God was good and if he really saw what I cared about. Mm-hmm. So transitioning to the States from Mongolia again, I was a senior in high school, and I started looking into college. I was deeply interested in missions and in what God was doing all around the world, not necessarily tied to one location. I thought it was connected to Mongolia. I thought I would go back. I checked out Bethany because I wanted to learn more about God, and found out that they were much more of a missions-oriented school than I thought, and ended up coming here. Last fall, I was entering into my sophomore year, and through a lot of different circumstances of watching people go out on the field, I realized that there was a lot of unresolved grief left in my heart from that transition to the States. Enough so that I fell into pretty severe depression and realized that I needed to go home and needed to drop out, go home, and figure my life out. Not exactly in those terms, but follow God's call home and hear what he had to say to me. It was like God was knocking on my heart strong enough that there wasn't any way that I could ignore it. Mm-hmm. And if I continued on the path that I was going to try to finish my bachelor's degree and go on internship overseas, I would be disobeying God. And it felt very strange because I was at a mission school, and it felt like that was the thing that God had called me to, and that I was failing him in some way if I left. But no, he called me back. So while I was back home, I kind of was in just a spot of depression still. It wasn't as bad as when I had been directly in missions-oriented stuff, but it was still there to some extent, and I went through a lot of relational hurt as well last fall. Lost some pretty core people in my life, and that was really hard. I started going through counseling, and I learned so much about myself and about the Lord, specifically diving into different transitions before Mongolia and then Mongolia itself, realizing that the loss of friendships and the loss of home had taken a deeper toll on me than I thought. And counseling provided this space for me to invite God into my hurt rather than assuming that he didn't care, or assuming that, okay, all that happened and all that hurt, yes, but I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to control this part of my life, I need to serve people, I need to think about other people first, because that's what being a Christian is. And to an extent that's true, but I think if we don't understand God's love for us and God's heart for us, we can't extend that to other people, and we're meant to be inviting people into what he's already experiencing. Yeah. So counseling was one aspect of healing. Another aspect of healing was getting involved with my church. I helped in youth group and in Sunday school, and I was involved with the ski club with my church and
Key club?
Ski club.
I was like, you made keys?
Ski club.
Ski club. Okay, go ahead.
And that involvement with God's people really strengthened me and healed me. Through working at youth group, I met this retired counselor named Glenn, he was 75, and he's one of my best friends. And he spoke so much truth into my life and invested in me without me, he initiated everything. He just poured into me, and that has been one of the key parts of healing. God used that time to significantly adjust my perspective on the past year and my future steps, highlighting especially that intimacy with Christ was the utmost and ultimate purpose of my life. As I was learning this, he showed me, and Bethany is the next step in the journey, But your steps are not the focus of your life. Rather, focus on enjoying and engaging with what I have in front of you. My glory is found in your enjoyment of me.
Wow.
So this truth has radically changed the way that I think about my life.
That's so beautiful. And so you experienced a lot of doubt. I knew you. I had just met you, actually, in that time where you were starting to realize, like, oh, maybe the plans that I thought were going to happen aren't supposed to happen, and feeling depressed and wrestling with all those questions. So, I don't know. It's kind of like perfect timing for us to meet, because I know that feeling so well. And just because we have doubts doesn't mean that's a bad thing. If someone listening to this is starting to doubt the direction that they thought God was leading them into, how could they start to discern where those doubts or thoughts are coming from in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I guess for me, I started experiencing doubts, and honestly just prayer and considering, like, there's something wrong. There's something not quite in line with how I thought this would be, and like praying about it, asking God about it, going to others around you as well, which is what I did. I talked to you. And that was super fruitful.
You're also an avid journaler.
I am.
Did that play a part in it?
That did play a huge part in it. I've grown up doing a lot of journaling, so yeah, that had a huge part in it. And something else that I just think of with that is, like, to know where is your heart at, like, and journaling is one way to find that out. Are you pursuing God? Are you being humble and teachable? And I think from that point, God meets you in your doubts in a pretty impactful way.
Yeah. It would be different if you were, like, not living for the Lord and then you were having doubts.
Right.
That would be one thing. But if you're, like, trying to follow the Lord as best you can, doing all you know to do, and in communication with Him, and then you start having doubts, those are two different things.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like in the other case, it'd feel more obvious why you might be having doubts.
Like, well, yeah, you're not in communication with the Lord. Yeah, and those would feel different.
Yeah. I feel like it's harder when you're, like, doubting, when you start experiencing doubt, when you feel like you're doing everything right, so to speak. Like, you're pursuing the Lord, you're pursuing what you thought He called you to, and then you have doubts. That's hard.
If you're already in communication with the Lord, it's like they are things to take notice of and be like, okay, maybe this is God letting me know this. Maybe this is attacks from the enemy. Maybe this is my own thoughts, and we just need to bring that to God.
Yeah.
Be like, all right, well, you've got me this far.
Yeah.
So show me what to do next.
Yeah. And in any of those cases, like, He wants to be invited into that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Missions is very simple. There are only two ministries in missions. You're either called to go down the well, or you're called to hold the rope for those that go down. Either way, there should be scars in your hands. Where are your scars? What has it cost you to be a Christian? This is a quote by Paul Washer that I really think encapsulates how Christians should view missions. What has it cost us to do God's work around the world? There are 50 million people that are trapped in modern-day slavery today. That number is too big for Christians to not care about, for us to not ask God, what are we being called to do? Jesus, in Matthew 25:40, told His disciples, "Truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brothers, you did it to me." He was saying that we will be judged by how we treat people. How we look at the vulnerable and oppressed and exploited in society is how we treat Him. It's going to be more likely in our walk with Christ that you have to ask God if you shouldn't be doing anything than if you should be. What you should be doing is helping these 50 million people trapped in modern-day slavery. These young girls that are going to be in forced child marriages. These young children that are going to be forced into prostitution. These young girls that are going to be forced to do domestic and sexual labor for the rest of their lives. What is God calling us to do? My name is Danielle Hanlon, and I work with an anti-trafficking organization called She Is Safe, where we are in the most at-risk and underserved places around the world, equipping women and girls to live a life free to be who they were called and created by Christ to be. That's what we want for every woman and girl that is exploited and in slavery around the world. There are going to be 2 links in the show notes. One is going to be to donate financially to She Is Safe, and the other link is my email address where you can contact me for more information. I would love to invite you to be a part of this and to share with you more specifics about how we can combat trafficking together as the body of Christ. And now, back to your Head to Heart episode.
So how did pressure or feeling pressure from other people around you play a part in this journey?
Yeah. Last fall in particular, I felt a lot of shame for feeling like I needed to leave, or not necessarily feeling like I needed to leave, but knowing that God was calling me to take a step back. I think because of a lot of built up like compliments people had given me for pursuing missions, and encouragements people had about like, wow, this is like the best thing you could do with your life, and all those were well meant. Nobody had ill intentions with that, but I think that combined with my own bondage to lies about myself made a perfect recipe for shame and
I thought you were going to say for disaster. I was like, yeah,
disaster
exactly.
too. And like just being held back from what God really had for me.
So you fully believed that what other people had said, like, missions is the absolute best thing you can do with your life, and then just kind of internalized that of like, that's the only thing I can do with my life.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
I felt like there was no other way, and like, yeah, even though I knew that other people who had gone other ways, and I didn't look at them as less, but like,
yeah, you would never judge other people for being like, actually, I thought I was going to do missions overseas, but I'm switching gears and I'm going to do this other thing instead.
Right.
You would never look at them and be like, well, you're less than.
Yeah. And I think in the face of that, I didn't have any answers for why I felt so guilty, or like, if I wasn't going to do missions, like, what would I do? And like, if missions is something everybody's called to, then like, how does that work?
So if there are listeners hearing this who also feel pressure, but they don't know exactly where that's coming from, how could they figure that out?
Yeah. Again, prayer, but like,
again, we cannot emphasize enough, it is prayer.
Yes. And like, I think we often think of prayer as like, you know, folding your hands and like asking for things that you want, but like, something I've been learning recently about prayer is just like, just talking to God about what I'm thinking about, which doesn't always come super instinctively for me. I mean, I felt like it should more, but yeah, just like opening up to God and being like, hey, this is going on, and I feel pressure in this area. What do you say about that? Another way is counseling and talking to people that you trust, who can point you towards the truth. Something that really helped me, that several people said to me, was like, what are some ways that God has acted in your life before that you know without a shadow of doubt were him? Like, how where is that, and how can you like hold to that right now? Another thing was what giftings have people called out of you and like pointed out in you that you see in yourself, that have like built you up, built you into the person that you are today. And key thing is like to just be memorizing scripture or just different parts of what God says about who you are, separate from what you do, verses that talk about you being God's beloved or being his child, and like that has great plans for you. Like, there's not very many places in scripture that actually say like you are going to do this and this, but like that God, so much of scripture says that God will do this in your life and through your life. God has good plans for you. God has created you for good things that he determined beforehand, and like
It calls out more of who we're created to be rather than what we have to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, if we always hear this term calling in the church, we always hear calling, it's what I feel like I should do, and, you have to pray to God to receive your specific calling. What would you say a calling is now that you're on the other side of this?
Yeah. It's interesting, actually, that we just talked about, like, calling is who you are more, because that's what I think of it now as, is that it's who you are becoming who God has wired you to be from the beginning and is, like, sanctifying you to be. Like, how are you wired? What are you passionate about? Where has he been faithful before, like I said before? And how can he be forming something eternal right now, not limited by time or your circumstance or location? I see it as less of a thing tied to location and like where you're going to be for the rest of life or what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. I've heard very few stories of how people have, like, found their life, like, of staying in one place, doing the same thing.
That's true.
Most people go through a transition of, like, well, God called me here, and then he called me there, and then he called me here, and I've been here for a while now. But, like, the Bible does say that we are nomads, and we don't belong to this world. This isn't our home. And, of course, God sees a longing in our hearts for home. And he wants to satisfy that with himself. And I guess that's what I see calling as more, being rooted in him and allowing him into the spaces of my heart that I wouldn't normally, just letting him form me.
What's so funny is that, I mean, it's funny now because I'm free from this and I can look back and be like, oh, that's not true. But I used to think that if I wanted to do something, like wanted to fill in the blank, like do youth ministry, or I felt like I was good at art or something like that, I felt like God was going to call me in the opposite direction to form my character and make me better and be like, okay, well, these are the things you want to do. Well, I'm going to make you do the things you don't want to do for the purpose of sanctification. And it really changed my mindset to know, like, first of all, God is not cruel. There will be times in your life you have to do things that you don't feel like you're good at or don't want to do. But someone told me that if there's a God-given desire in me, and these are my gifts, these are my talents, these are the things that I'm passionate about, that those were arrows into what he was pointing me into.
Ooh.
And that, like, changed everything for me, because I was like, you're telling me, like, I can actually do what I want to do and God's still going to be happy with me.
Oh my goodness.
It was, like, just such a game changer, because it helps me realize God's not manipulative.
Yeah.
And those desires are from him, as opposed to, I just thought those desires were selfish. I thought that I just made them up, you know?
Right. Wow, that is so good. It's like, we take this self-sacrificing thing too far.
Way too far.
I'm like,
I'm a martyr for life.
Yeah. And, like, we can't give something up if we don't own it first, too. Like, yeah, your desires are there on purpose, not just to be given up.
Yeah. And scripture talks about dying to yourself daily. And that is fully true, but I feel like we take that to mean that life is only suffering for our King. And there will be suffering in life, but life is not only suffering.
Right.
And we die to our sin. We die to our selfish ambition. But we're not dying to the things that God put in us.
Yes.
That would not make sense.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very good point.
Yeah. Would you give any resources you would recommend to the listeners? Is there anything that helped you during that time?
Yeah. There was a lot of things. I listened to a lot of music last year. So I guess some music that was my favorite was Jess Ray.
Oh, I love Jess Ray.
It's so
I
good.
Love her. Mm-hmm.
Matthew Mole, I'm With You. That's a very good song. I listened to it on repeat for like 2 months. And then Love Does by Bob Goff.
I love that book.
It's a really good book.
Good book.
It's like one of my favorite books, and it really impacted my life.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan Harper Nichols, her Instagram page was really impactful for me too.
Is she the one that writes all that poetry?
Yeah, she writes poetry, and she actually has written songs too.
Wow.
But I think she doesn't do quite as much music now.
Mm-hmm.
Other resources, Job 23:10, good verse, that he'll bring you out as gold. Really comforting for me. And that he also knows the way that you take, even when you don't, when you don't understand the way that you're going or where he is in it, that he sees you, he knows where you are, and he's gonna see you through. I don't know if this is considered a resource necessarily, but some things that were helpful for me were to be physically active a lot in that time of
that's good advice.
getting exercise in and not engaging my mind so much, just doing something else, doing something productive. That's why working was so helpful for me, even though I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what God called me to do. Working and getting involved with ministry just in a general sense was super, super healing. And if you are creative, please nurture it, because that was something that really, really helped me, and God met me through.
If you're loving Head to Heart so far, I have another podcast recommendation for you. It's called Your Two Best Friends Podcast, and you may already know one of the hosts because Danielle Hanlon was a guest on this show, and now her and Annalise have started their own podcast for those who want to grow in their relationship with God within a solid community. It's both edifying and funny, the best of both worlds. So you could find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and I'll link it in the show notes just so you have a little shortcut. So make sure to check out their podcast when you're done listening to this episode.
Colossians 3:2-4 says, "Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory." And we were talking in class about Colossians today, and it got me thinking a little bit as I was thinking about calling in this podcast and everything, is that God calls us to things that are eternal and to things that are unseen, and that we can plant into that today, and really that is what matters. How can we invest in God's future for us right now? How can we enjoy him right now? Because if we miss out on what's right in front of us, we're missing out on our life. And if we keep waiting for the next thing or keep waiting for God's calling, or then we miss out on what's right in front of us. And that was something I learned last fall, kind of in a hard way, of God kept me in the moment. If we keep waiting for what's next, and if we keep thinking that we're missing out on something because we don't know what's next, we miss out on what's right in front of us. And God has given us the gift of what's right in front of us, and even when that feels like that's all that's there, he's in it. And there can be real joy found in just enjoying God, however he's wired you to do that. You are where you are meant to be, and that God is right there with you.
Yeah, that's so good. If you had any final encouragement for any listener who's just confused on where God is leading them at the moment, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I know a lot of people say this, and I don't mean to be saying it out of a place of not encouraging you. But God will make the next step clear in time, and that you don't need to stress out about it right now. Because sure, maybe there's ways you can be faithful to be pursuing the possibilities of what could be next, and that is so valuable and so needed. But there comes a point where we can't be more faithful in the terms of we can't figure it out. God is the one who's going to have to reveal it, and we've We've done what we can. And God will be faithful to show you, but that your calling is not the utmost focus of your life, but that God is, and that knowing God is the focus of your life. You will be spending eternity with him, worshiping him, and that he does have work for you, and he has something for you to do now, but that is not despite your desires or in contradiction to your desires either. He honors those and sees those. And ultimately, the next step is only the next step closer to his heart. You're on a journey. You are in process. You will never arrive. But you can live your calling as his right here, right now. It's all you've been given, and if you miss it, we're missing our lives. Our calling is found in making him our home and extending that invitation to those around us. However that plays out is unique to your story. Invite God in, let him write it for you, and just take one step at a time of enjoying him now.
Yeah, because we can make the idea of our calling an idol if we're not careful.
Yes.
But if we are just making God in his right place in our lives, we will know what to do next.
Yeah.
Because he communicates with us.
Right.
And if he wants us to be somewhere, he will let you know.
Yeah.
And you will be led there.
Yes.
That's so beautiful.
And there's such a rest in that too. Like, you're at a point where, okay, Lord, show me what to do. And you can just be like, I'll just be here.
Yeah. You know Emma Tarpley?
Yeah.
Okay, so Emma told me this thing that I was like, can I take that and use it in my own life? But she said she has a friend who is overseas doing missions, and people ask her a lot, so what's next? Or, so where are you going next? What's on the agenda? What are you doing after this? Things like that. And she answers saying, whenever the cloud moves, I'll move with it. But as long as the cloud is right here, I'll stay there. And I was just like, can I steal that? That's so good. Because when, like if you're about to graduate school or your time is ending for a certain season, people will inevitably ask you what's next. And if you don't know the answer to that question could become annoying, or you feel weird when people ask you because you don't know what to say. But that's such a good answer. So everyone listening, you can take that as a freebie. Thank you, Emma Tarpley.
Yes,
because that's a good answer. Like, you will go where God leads you to go, but you don't know where that is yet, so you're going to stay right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so good.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah.
Audrey, thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you for having me.
It was a joy.
It's such a joy.
You can come on anytime. Thanks. Yeah. Well, dear listeners, I hope that you will apply this from your head to your heart, that if in any way you felt pressure to know what's next, or you felt pressure to do what you think seems like the greatest, we just challenge you to look at God and then look inside yourself.
Yeah.
And evaluate and ask him, like, what's actually great to him in your life?
Yeah.
What is he calling you to do? How is he calling you to be present? So thanks for listening, dear listeners, and thank you for being the guest, Audrey.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Head to Heart Podcast. It's a joy to record them and a joy to have you listen. Since you're a dedicated listener and made it to the very end of the episode, I have 2 gifts for you. One is that I have a free resource linked in the show notes for you. It's a resource created to help you take the truth you've learned either in this episode or in a previous one and apply it to your life. The second gift I have for you is access to my seasonal playlists. Every season, summer, fall, winter, spring, I create a regular playlist and a worship playlist that will be ongoing throughout the season. And you'll be able to follow it on Spotify if you need some good boogie tunes. Because, let's be honest, in another life, I would have been a DJ. So, you now have full access to meet all your seasonal music needs in the show notes. As always, I love hearing from you. So follow me on Instagram and send me a DM of how this episode impacted you. The handle is headtoheart_podcast. And if you would be so kind, leave a 5-star rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the website. By doing this, you'll help me get more amazing guests on the show in the future. I'll be releasing new episodes to you every other Friday, so stay tuned and thanks for joining us.